I'm Michael Bain, and welcome to Triggered, brought to you by MidwayUSA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Of course, we are coming to you from a very cold, snowy, secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains and Dragon House Studios. And today, I want to talk a little bit about old friends and beautiful guns. Kind of sounds like the headline to an old Skeeter Skelton column in, Shooting Times in 1962, something like that. But this gun is a very, very special gun. And to talk about it, I'm going to need to go back to the very early days of the internet and introduce you to a good friend of mine, Jeff Quinn. When we go back to the early days, the internet isn't like it is now. Now, if you type in gun reviews, I actually did this recently, there were something like 10 million responses to it. But in the very earliest days of the internet, there were just a few people there. I was there along with Marshall Holloway. The Mad Ogre, George Hill, was there. The other person was Jeff Quinn. Jeff Quinn created one of the very first online gun magazines. And Jeff was an incredible character, Here's this guy, he's got this huge long beard. The beard is all braided. He's got this classic Tennessee backwoods accent. I recognize that because I used to have one, but I burned it all out. And he knew a lot about guns. And so with the growth of Gun Blast, Jeff's stature rose in the industry because he was what I think of as exactly like I was growing up. You know, we grew up in Tennessee. Guns were very much a part of our life from day one. As I mentioned, I got my first gun when I was 6, my first shotgun when I was 6, my first pistol when I was 12. Jeff pretty much followed along those lines. But he lived out in the country, had a herd of longhorn cattle, and among other things, aside from riding his Harley Davidson, which he absolutely unequivocally loved, he made his own hot sauce. So it wasn't surprising that those of us who were there at the beginning of the internet met each other. And in fact, ended up traveling a lot together. Marshall, Jeff, and I made a lot of trips to a lot of different gun companies. We looked at a lot of new guns being built together. I do remember the very first time I said, "Hey, Jeff, you got this hot sauce. I love hot sauce." And he goes, "Well, Michael, here we're at somewhere, I think New Hampshire, in fact." And we had a big plate of barbecue, and Jeff said, "Don't put their barbecue sauce on it. Put mine on it." So he actually had a leather holster made for his barbecue sauce, which I thought was just cool beyond words. So I took his bottle, and I did what I always do with hot sauce. I went whonk, 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 whonk. And then I took a great big bite of the barbecue, and actually my right ear fell off. My nose exploded. My hair all stood on end. I'm sitting there going, huh, 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 huh. Jeff looks across the table at me and goes, "Is it hot?" Yeah, a little hot. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." But as happens, last July 2020, Jeff passed away. And as he told me, as he told everybody, is one of the high points in his life was he outlived the doctor that gave him his very first death sentence. He was tough. But eventually, he succumbed. And it was a loss to all of us personally because he was a great friend, a trusted friend to all of us. But he was also a huge loss to the gun community in the sense that there just aren't that many people out there who had an encyclopedic knowledge of firearms. Just not that many. And Jeff did indeed have that encyclopedic knowledge. So after his death, Lipsey's, of course we talked about Lipsey's a lot, and Ruger, who Jeff spent a lot of time working with Ruger, decided that they wanted to create a commemorative gun for Jeff. And this is one of them. This is mine. It is a Ruger GP-100, 5-shot 44 special, has a 4.20 inch barrel, and among other things, you'll notice that the trigger and the hammer are polished brightly, almost like chrome. Carries a special serial number. This is 181 out of 500. That's all that were made. And if you look on the grips here, you have Jeff's signature and his portrait, with his classic long braided beard. When I got this gun, and the proceeds for this gun goes to Jeff's favorite group, Bikers Who Care. But when I got this gun, I was looking at it and I thought, I'd like to make it special, a little even more. So I called my friend Doug Turnbull at Turnbull Restorations, and I said, Doug, I have one of the Jeff Quinn Memorial revolvers, and what I would like to do is send it to you, and I would like for you to color case the frame, because I want it to be a very special gun. And he said, of course, Michael. I sent it to him. A month later, this is what came back. So this is my Jeff Quinn Memorial revolver, color casework by the great Doug Turnbull. It's a beautiful gun. And I think it's a gun that Jeff would love. I know, because he loved 44 Specials, he loved GP-100s, as indeed do I. And I think this gun really stands out. Whether I'm going to shoot it or not, I'm still worried about. I think Jeff would hate me if I didn't shoot it. I got to tell you the truth. But when we come back to Triggered, I want to talk a little bit more about some of my other really beautiful guns here and how they all tie back to this one. Stay with us.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series, so fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
Hey, welcome back to Triggered, where we're talking about this gun, the Jeff Quinn Memorial 44 Special GP-100 from Lipsey's in conjunction with Ruger. I also want to show you this very quickly. This is from Rob Leahy, our good friend at Simply Rugged. Jeff was a member of the Shootist, these great single-action shooters, as is Rob Leahy. And so for all these guns, Rob made this holster for them, which of course has Jeff's portrait on it. It's beautiful work, as is all of Rob's work. I wanted to just show you a couple of things here. You look at this and you go, wow, I would love one of these guns. One of the things that my friend Turnbull has been doing is, I think you've seen this guy before. Not even sure it'll fit in this one here, but yeah, there we go. Turnbull is expensive. I think all of you know that. But one of the things that Doug started doing, he showed me this several years ago. He said, hey, would you buy a Ruger Mark IV if I did the color casework on it? I said, well, it depends on if I had to actually sell a car. But instead, Doug did a great job of bringing these beautiful guns, which I think are heirloom guns, that are affordable in the sense, it's about a $1,000 gun, which, you know, normally $600–700 for a Ruger Mark IV. So it's not that much, but this is a gun that's an heirloom gun. I purchased this gun as a pair, two of them, one of which we gave away at a Rimfire Challenge Shooting Association, so big event. But I wanted you to see this and know that you can go to Turnbull Restorations and see some of his work, and maybe if you want that really, really special gun, you can find it from Turnbull. I mentioned that I was a huge fan, am a huge fan, of the Ruger GP-100, just like Jeff Quinn. And I'm also a huge fan of the 44 Specials. This is a 44 Special GP-100. This got a 5-inch barrel on it. Once again, this is something that has come from Lipsey's in conjunction with Ruger. It's a great gun. You see here, it doesn't have the full lug barrel, which is typical of the GP-100s. Instead, it's got a half lug, as does the Jeff Quinn Special. This is from 2018, roughly. Ruger came out with this gun distributed through Lipsey's. And before that, in 2017, they'd come out with this gun, which is a 3-inch 5-shot 44 Special stainless steel. People cheered when Ruger finally brought out a 44 Special in GP-100, because the GP-100s are tanks. We actually did, one of the very first shows we did here at the Secret Hidden Bunker was a history of the Ruger GP-100. And we're going to haul that out of our archives and air it again very soon for you. You've never actually seen it here on michaelbain.tv, but we'll get that for you. The Ruger GP-100s are tanks. roughly 1985, just like everything else that came out of Ruger. They're wildly over-engineered. And frankly, I wasn't very crazy about them at all. I mean, I come out of a Smith & Wesson revolver, usually 44 Magnum background. But my friend Ken Jorgensen, who was working for Ruger at the time, when the GP-100 match champion, 5-inch 357 match gun came out, he said, "Let me send you one." I said, "No, don't send me one." He goes, "Let me send you one, and you shoot it." I actually was going to Gunsight when it arrived, and I took it out to Gunsight and shot it a lot. That was back when we had ammunition. You probably remember that. And I thought, this is a great gun. This is a great gun. So I began competing with GP-100s. I have a large number of them. I'm a big fan of the 44 Special. It's a great cartridge. It is the perfect cartridge between a 357 and a 44 Magnum. It'll do 99% of what a 44 Magnum will do. And that's the only thing it won't do is that very upper reaches, like Buffalo Bore Garrett ammunition type. But for almost everything else in the world, the 44 Special is a super cartridge. Also, and this is something that Jeff and I talked about because it was funny, everyone loves the 44 Special until it's time to buy them. And then nobody buys them. It's the oddest thing. Whenever I think Smith & Wesson came out with some 44 Specials, and then Ruger came out with the GP-100 44 Specials. And in talking to Jeff, and also talking to John Taffet, another great encyclopedic knowledge gun writer, I said, every time someone brings out a 44 Special, what happens? Well, I buy one, Quinn buys one, Taffet buys one. Notice how I got quiet? Somehow the market doesn't exist for 44 Special, even though everybody loves it. I like it. You know, I have these. This is kind of my go-to gun. I've carried this gun a lot. It is a really good woods gun, carrying gun. Before I get off the subject of GP-100s, this is something you've seen, but I have made a few changes here. This is a GP-100, 5-inch barrel GP-100 in 10 millimeter. Now, it's a 6-shot instead of a 5-shot. It uses moon clips, full moon clips. This particular one has a J-point red dot sight on it, and that sight was installed by Cylinder and Slide Sean Sheedy, who also did the amazing checkering on these grips. This is my woods gun. You know, this is, I like 10 millimeter. I have a 10 millimeter Red Hawk, but boy, it's heavy. This one isn't. This is a super GP-100. And 10 millimeter, again, in a lot of ways, it reminds me of a 44 Special in that you can go all the way down to, you know, light 40 Smith & Wesson loads, roughly, all the way up to dinosaur killers. As you know, 10 millimeter has been used to take Cape buffalo in Africa. Not by me, because I really like living. So when we come back, we're going to talk about something entirely different. You're going to want to stay with us. This week's Triggered is brought to you by MidwayUSA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Taurus USA. Designed to protect. Volquartsen. Engineering the world's finest rimfire rifles, pistols, and parts. And Franklin Armory, making some of the most innovative guns in America. Welcome back to Triggered, where we're jumping away from GP-100 revolvers to Glock-ish guns. Now, if you recall, this is something I've talked about both here, Triggered, and on the Michael Bain MBTV on the Radio podcast. And that's that I'm looking forward to going to St. Augustine in June to shoot the very first gunmakers match. So it is a match for people who have built their own guns out of kits, out of milling machines, out of 3D printers. And in fact, if you look on michaelbain.tv, in one special section, there's a special section for essentially some of our projects. You'll see a 30-minute interview with Rob Pincus on using a 3D printer that really inexpensive, around $300, to print frames for Glocks and to print frames for a couple of other different guns. So I'm going to film that match for Triggered. I'm also going to be there shooting, and I've been building up a gun. I've been building off of Polymer 80. The reason I'm not showing you the whole build is because, of course, in the last few weeks, we put up a detailed build of a polymer 89 millimeter. And the reason I bring this up again is, to me, this has become even more critical. You now see the government moving against quote-unquote ghost guns, which is pretty much the usual nonsensical, crap, scary name you put on something people have been doing forever, which is building their own firearms. Big supporter of Polymer 80. I think they build a great, great product. So, obviously, this is going to be the frame of my G34. Right now, it's in the jig. It's set up for me to go ahead and do the drilling and a little bit of using these clippers on some of these front rails here, as opposed to milling it out with a drill press. Probably have to use the drill press mill to get these little knobs right back here. And I will use a Dremel to cut out the tunnel that's right in the front there, you know, where the recoil system is going to run through. Now, this is the top end. This is something that I really wanted to show you here, is essentially, take a look at the slide. This particular slide is from Primary Machine in Louisiana. And I've talked a lot about Primary Machine over the year. Primary Machine is a company that did almost most of my milling to put slides on different guns. And Primary Machine specialized in hard projects, like putting a rifle-sized red dot on a Glock G19X, for example, or putting a very small red dot on a car arms gun. So, as I mentioned before, Primary Arms is now transitioning out of milling other people's slides into selling their own. And this is kind of their bread and butter slide. And compared to a lot of Glock slides, it's really inexpensive. It's like $250, $275, $80, something like that. You see Glock slides with like lots of cutouts and, I don't know, racing stripes, stuff like that, which is cool, for upwards of $500, maybe even more. So I went ahead and got this Primary Machine slide because I like it. I like it because it looks good. And, you know, I like it because I like the way the serrations sit. And this is the base slide that I want to use for the competition gun. Now, it's already been cut for a Trijicon mount. This is a Trijicon SRO. Their competition site is one of the best competition sites in the world, in my opinion. And I happen to have this Springer Precision slide racker lying around. And it makes it a little bit easier to rack the gun. Just a little bit easier. Right now, it has Glock internals. It's got a Glock barrel, Glock striker, blah, blah. But that's going to change. I have a Wilson Combat G34 barrel, match barrel coming. And the reason I chose that over some of those incredible, like multicolored, you know, barrels that glow at night, look like those kind of weird neon tubes that kids buy at the fair and wrap around themselves. My experience with the with the Bill Wilson Combat match stainless steel barrels for Glocks is that they are in fact more accurate than the existing barrel. Glock barrels are pretty accurate, but my match guns have Wilson Combat match barrels in them. And I'm a believer, and I was lucky enough to find one G34 barrel on DeVore, which is the blowout house for Optics Planet, and I have that coming. I will also change out the striker. I have other strikers, I just haven't put it together yet. The way I kind of go through these things when I'm not in a rush to do it for filming is I like to do everything a piece at a time and then make sure everything works. So this is my old G34 frame. We've talked about it before as a gift from Gaston Glock. I took this slide, I put the internals in it, the Glock internals in it, stuck it on this frame, and then went out and shot it. It works like a top. It should work like a top. When I change out the internals, I change out the barrel, I change out the striker, I'll take it out and shoot it again. I'm not sure if something doesn't work. I want to catch it as far up as I can. You know, when we go actually to this unit, we build out the frame, I'm going to use an Apex trigger from Apex Tactical, my friend Scott, Randy, and Paul. They make a great trigger. And I have a collection of parts in my Glock parts bin where I have a real weird collection of parts to build out the rest of this gun. Also, a special holster for the Polymer 80 frames, which are slightly different than the Glock frames. I think this is from Vetter. I wouldn't swear to that. You know, guys, if you're making holsters and you send them out, you know, you really ought to put your name on them. It's one of my little pet peeves. But I'll show you this gun when it's finished. I just wanted to show you where we were with it. But it's coming along, and pretty soon we'll have this frame built out. And I'm looking forward to going to Florida. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be important for all of us. I'm Michael Bain. You can find Triggered on michaelbain.tv, where you can also find our special interview with Rob Pincus on printing your own gun. You can also find us on YouTube. And if you do go to YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe and join the 5,000 other people who are subscribers there. And as you know, we're brought to you by MidwayUSA, just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors, and where I probably bought most of these weird Glock parts that are lying around my workbench. Until next week then, stay safe.